Yes, deep in this house of love. This house of love that's in our hearts, this house of love that we call the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living, the house of love that is our music, that is our sound, that is the sun that is shining ever so bright outside. It's all of that and so much more. And so I anchor us into this talk this morning that Kaleem has said yes to. And so it is. During this time of year, it is our season of peace. And so you'll notice that the candles look very different. There are 2 candles. And so I invite Linda to come forward. And we still are a community that celebrates and honors all teachings. And so our teaching for this week around peace is the prayer of Saint Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, as to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And so it is. And the second light is always the light of love and light and peace. And so I invite you to bring to mind anyone that you wish to hold in this love, light, and peace. Now that our flames of faith are fully lighted, we move forward into the celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. Thank you, Linda. Our reading today comes from the excerpt of What We Believe. Ernest Holmes, 1927, wrote the Declaration of Principles. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. And so it is.
What a perfect song for my topic today. A long time ago, in the vast landscapes of Africa, there existed a people who harbored a secret magic. With wings as dark as lustrous as the midnight, they stepped on air and soared against the canvas of the sky, embodying freedom in the purest form. However, the tides of fate turned cruelly against them. They were captured and bound for a life of enslavement across the ocean. The crowded confines of the slave ships and the sickness that plagued them on the tumultuous journey made them shed their wings and forget the skies that once they conquered. The ones who could fly looked the same as the ones who could not. And among them was a man, an elder called Toby. He carried the memories of flight and a young woman called Sarah. But despite the loss of their wings, the essence of their power remained untouched, hidden within. The cruelty of their existence under the watchful eyes of the overseer and the relentless demands of their so-called master tested their spirits. One day, pushed beyond the brink of endurance, the moment came when Sarah said, "It's time for me to go." So Toby witnessed her despair because under the crueling labor and the whip of the driver, her child cried upon her back and she fell to her knees. But the elder Toby whispered incantations which included Buba Yali, Buba Timbe. He invoked the ancient magic. Sarah rose to her feet as she began to walk and then to run. And then she placed her foot on the air. Rising with her child on her back, she reclaimed the sky. Her ascent was a testimony to an indomitable spirit that no chain could bind. The overseer's attempts to capture her were in vain. Sarah flew beyond the reach, her flight a beacon of hope to those who witnessed. But Toby, undeterred by the overseer's threats, continued to awaken the dormant power within the others, now shouting the magic incantations which included Kum Yali, Kum Tumbe. One by one, they took to the air. They collectively took flight, dazzling defiance against the shackles of their captivity. As the overseer demanded Toby's capture, the elder revealed the depth of his power. With laughter, he proclaimed their identity as a people who could fly. And with a final spell, and he with the others ascended, leaving behind the bonds of slavery for the freedom of the skies. They flew beyond the horizon. Their legacy was a promise of liberation for those who remained behind because they did not know how to fly. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today and share that African American story of folklore that has come through many iterations, including the one I modified. Okay, and it's a book by Virginia Hamilton called "The People Could Fly," and that's one of the books I read to my children as they were growing up. And of course, as usual, when you begin to use something, and I call it a holy scripture, right, a story of a people, then you begin to look into it more deeply. And the story sort of took flight in my mind, in my soul. And I began to see things I did not see 30 years ago when I used to read this story to my children. But I like to bring, of course, my topic of my talk today is that you can fly. Do you, like me, sometimes feel trapped in your life circumstances? Do you, and maybe some of us feel, you know what, Kaleem, no, I'm pretty free. I've been on my spiritual journey or been to psychological counseling for decades or years, whatever it may be for you. But maybe I sometimes feel unexpressed. There's still more in me to give and to express and to enjoy. So this story is for you. So let's kind of take a review, and I'd like for you to ask yourself, what part of the story represents my life and things that I'm going through in every day? Take a moment to think about that. What may be holding you back from living your life fully? What additional dreams do you have? Yeah, you've accomplished those dreams you thought was the end. I know, like myself, I'm not fooled. I already know, even when I get to the point of so-called retirement, it's really going to be refirement. Okay. But let's take a look at some of the movements of what happened in the story. You remember, there's the innocence and freedom. Life's beginning for many of us was free and untainted. And for some of us, it wasn't. For some of us, early in our journey, we realized we had this inner power. And we, for some reason, we're born called old souls. And for some reason, we knew there was something within us, and we began to use it early in our life. But regardless of whether we knew it or not, for most of us, we got entrapped in the life itself, dumped stuff on us. Sometimes early in life, sometimes later in life. But I would guarantee for 99.9% of us, it got dumped. Okay. Therefore, we go through life trials and tribulations that seem to bind us or distract us from that which we thought we came to earth to do. Then we go through what's called a struggle or liberation, overcoming through inner strength and remembering our essence. I should also state this. For sometimes when we are involved in that dark spot of entrapment and containment, it was of our own choice. And sometimes it was really injustice by someone else. But regardless, we can get to a state of what we call the awakening. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more today, the awakening. That pivotal moment of reclaiming our power and our potential. So regardless how we got there, we can reclaim the power to get up and to move forward. I remember some decades ago, and I heard Jesse Jackson talking on television. And he said, you may not be responsible for being pushed in the gutter, but you're responsible for getting up. And then, of course, for many of us, we go to the unawakened stage. For some of us, we remain unawakened. We call it sleepwalkers. And we realize, and we've forgotten our capacity, if we ever knew our capacity, for freedom and for self-empowerment. But regardless of our diverse paths toward our liberation, eventually, we will eventually all get there, one way or another. Sometimes we go the short route, and sometimes we take the long route. But eventually, we will all get to the point where we realize within us there is a power, and we can use our words to express our intentions to move forward. Now I'm going to give you a little smorgasbord of metaphysical concepts. And for some of you, you'll kind of recognize where it's coming from. Because part of the challenge I take when I give these Sunday talks is that they only give me about 25 minutes. And usually I leave here without all my ideas being expressed. So I'm just going to throw out a smorgasbord of ideas here, okay? And see if you can follow along with some of this with me. And I'll be available afterwards maybe to say, what do you mean by that, Kaleem? Okay? Remember in the story there was a magical chant called Boomba Yali. For some of us know that Ba comes from ancient Egypt. In his spirituality, the concept of Ba can be taught as an individual personality that's eternal. And this Ba, as part of our soul, part of our expression, could fly between the worlds of the dead and the living. Between the worlds of pure spirituality and physical life. Today we call it metaphysical. And sometime later, we heard someone say that I am. Then we heard the phrase, be still and know that I am God. And then we go a little further, and someone said that there is a child to be born, and you're supposed to name him Emmanuel, which means God with us. And the magical chant was Yahweh. In Semitic interpretation, God with us. Magic chant. So keep following with me, okay? Later on, we became to a stage in which we, who call ourselves metaphysicians, begin to put the puzzle together. And we begin to realize if you combine the I am with the with us, we came up with I am God with us. Now, thus is very important, because if you don't add, if you simply say the I am and I am God without the us, we call it egotistical damnation, because you think you're the only one. But here's the secret, and Linda gave the secret her title last week. God is, I am. That's a meditation. Matter of fact, it's a powerful secret when we begin to realize that regardless of my circumstances and regardless of my journey, there's a power within me that I can speak forth and call forth. And I become a co-creator of my life experiences. God is, I am. Some of us will recognize this as 3 steps of our affirmative prayer. First, recognize there's an infinite presence, recognition. And then we say that once I recognize this infinite presence, now I unify my consciousness with it, and so I'm a part of this infinite something. And then we go to the 3rd step, and we declare our good as though it already is. So I would encourage each one of us to think about your life circumstances, to think about things you want to overcome or you seem entrapped within. And I would encourage you to kind of use this story as a metaphor, as a template to freedom. Then there are those of us that, like I said before, Kaleem, I'm pretty free. I've been through these steps. Yet you know there's more in you to be expressed. God is infinite. We cannot imagine a beginning nor an ending. God is infinite. So let's take a look at some of the journeys we may have gone through. Now, I'm going to share some personal experiences in my life. And as we know, when we practice here, we recognize the infinite paths of all faith traditions. And I recall when I was a young person in the Church of God in Christ, the Pentecostal church, okay, and I saw a person in the middle of service, when we were having church service, and a gentleman entered in the back of the church. And as a young person, I didn't quite know what was going on, except I heard later on he was intoxicated. But I do know as he came forth, they circled him. They began to pray. And then later on, I kept hearing rumors about, how's Henry doing? Henry's working with the brothers. Henry's doing okay. Then I heard my mother on the phone, Henry's doing what? Tell them brother to go after Henry. Then later on, Henry became a deacon, and I recall he walked down the aisle with this beautiful bride. His life had been transformed. Bah, that eternal something within him. And he obviously, even in the middle of him being intoxicated, the darkness of his life, he came for the light. And there were people there to welcome him and to show him the way through. Isn't that what we do? This is why we're here at the Alaska Center for spiritual living, to hold the presence for those who are looking for the light. I remember when I came here, and I remember what attracted me. We all have reasons why with that hook that tracks us. When there was a practitioner standing at the podium at the location we were at that time, talking, and I happened to be in ancient Egyptian history, and he spoke about Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great, and he talked about these philosophies, about the Egyptian philosophy and how they are available to us today, we're using them today, and that hooked me. And then my life has been transformed step by step, peak to peak from that point on, without end. What brought you here today? What brought you, for some of us, what brought us here for the first time? Are you continuing to lean in to the light? Here comes the commercial. Watch it. Okay. Are you continuing to lean into the light, not only coming to Sunday service, but also taking classes? What a powerful topic. God is, I am. Giving topics online about the foundations of now our foundations class is really the universal foundations of metaphysics. Bob and I, we're teaching a class now based on a book called Afformations, F-O-R-M, Afformations. But we're not going to limit to the book. So those of you who might be wondering, what is this class about? And thank you, Susan. You're an inspiration for this. Okay. All right. But we're going to be asking questions in a positive way, like what is it about my life that empowers me to live? But here's how the class is designed. The class is designed as a prayer. That's why we call it transformations, because we anticipate that your life will be transformed from this experience. Because we know now today what the mystics of the past could not necessarily tell to the common people, but now we have this thing called spirituality and science that are beginning to merge so that we can understand cognitively what we've been knowing for tens of thousands of years. We now have neuroscientists writing books about how God changes your brain. So now we know why things like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and spiritual experiences like the Center of Spiritual Living, or the Baptist Church or the Catholic Church, whatever it is called into your soul, we now know why it works. It's because once you say yes to it, and you become part of the family of what's going on, it actually changes the neural path of your brain. Therefore, you go through a transformative experience. You're not the same as you came. And this is what I hope for each one of you today. I would hope that a little pearl of something has been dropped into your soul that will ignite that spark of freedom within you. Now you begin to sing your song more loudly than ever before, or run your track, your journey more faster than ever before, or climb that mountain from peak to peak and more peaks than ever before. How many can say yes to that? Yeah. All right, love it, okay? So here's what I propose for you, is that, now what's the secret? How do we do this? Well, first of all, I would recommend don't wait till the next storm to come. Notice these people were practicing the magic before the darkness. Therefore, even though they temporarily got caught up in the darkness, they can more quickly awaken in a shorter period of time. Therefore, I would recommend for you, if life seems to be going pretty great right now, please prepare for the storm with prayer and meditation and spiritual practices and classes, whatever turns you on, but do it now. I would also recommend to you, for some of us may be in the midst of our darkness at this moment in time. Oh, I encourage you to turn within and pray and meditate and take classes. Step upon the air. Now, what is it when we step upon the air? How can you step on air, Kaleem? Okay? Because that seems like it's nothing substantial. We can feel it, we can measure it, Isn't that how spirituality is? Isn't that how faith is? I can't quite explain it to you, but once I experience it, I can tell you about it. And if you haven't experienced it, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Here's an acronym. I'm sorry, it just came to me. Okay. Let us fly. FLY. Let faith lift you. Let faith lift you. Let us fly. Okay? Let us step upon the air. We're stepping upon faith. We're stepping on that, and we're allowing and trusting that something within us to take us to the next level. And all I can tell you is that it's been proven throughout history, it works. A little bit further, I had a brother, and I shared the story, and he said we could share the story. He's no longer with us in this earth form. But I had a brother who had all type of addictions. He later told us he was addicted to everything. He said, we knew he was addicted, obviously, to alcohol and drugs. He even said later on, I was addicted to sex, cocaine. And what happened, we as a family, we gave him what's called tough love. Now, what does that mean? We will not accept your outer behavior, and we're going to keep you in prayer. Well, he ended up going to a shelter in Denver, Colorado, and there was a group of nuns there, and one particularly began to pray for him. He says, I played the game because I wanted the services. He said, and he thought he was a slickster, right? He says, she's trying to give me Jesus. I'm going to give her a man. Okay? And she kept praying for him. And she kept praying for him. And he told us this story. He said, brother, all of a sudden, all of my addiction began to fall away from me. He said, no AA, no NA, they simply fell away. The cocaine, the alcohol, his approach to ladies, okay, he said it all fell away from him. He said the last to fall away was cigarettes, but they fell away from him. And he married a young woman and got married and lived a wonderful life. Okay? Matter of fact, we called him, because my father was a preacher, he came a little preacher, right? Right? But so I know I have witnessed in my life how the power of prayer works. What's going on in your life? That power of prayer and meditation might be of assistance to you and help for you. Well, Kaleem, that's fine, all that, but I'm suffering from a broken heart. You know that relationship that I leaned on and I thought so much about? Well, first of all, I just learned something on the internet yesterday, a couple days ago. A gentleman, I guess they're talking about different type of relationships. They're saying some relationships are called A-frame relationships. Have you heard of that one? I haven't heard of it. I just found it out a couple days ago. It's an A-frame relationship. You're leaning into each other. When one person moves and fails, the whole structure falls apart. Then they say there's the H relationship. You have two individuals, and you're connected together. But guess what? If something falls in between there, it's easy to fall apart. They said what you want to have, and what one couple said, we have a circle relationship. A circle relationship is, number one, we feel whole and complete in ourselves, and then we encircle each other. And becomes such a tight bond that nothing can come between us. But if it should come between us, I still got my arms wrapped around spirit. And I stand in prayer for my partner. Isn't that something? The power of that I will stand for you. And if you should fall, I will stand and pray you up. This is what spiritual life is about, and this is what spiritual community is about. So I would encourage each one of us to go through your journey, to look at your journey, but yet the magic is the fly, the faith. That is universal through all paths. Do you believe? And take time to sit down and to pray and meditate to find out what tweaks your soul. It may be the Alaska Center of Spiritual Living. It may be another path. How many times have we seen individuals come in this circle for years, and then they're rebirthed to another experience, another path, which is perfect. Because we're here to know the presence of God in each and every one of us as it serves your soul. As it serves your soul. Are we ready to fly? All right, let's fly. So here's how we fly here. We have a process we call the affirmative prayer. And affirmative prayer, I call it when I give public talks at the different things in community, affirmative prayer is a cocktail of spiritual practices. It's a mixture of different things that's very powerful. First of all, we recognize, and there's 5 steps, there's really 6 steps, but I'm going to call it the 5 steps. The first step, we don't call part of the steps, is that I set my intentions. Remember now, as human beings and as godlings, we have the power to set intentions, to declare what you want. Then what we call the first step, and while I'm doing this, I'm recognizing there is a power. There is an infinite power. And because it's infinite, I have to be part of it. Ernest Holmes says, if you're not part of it, it can't be infinite. Got that logic? Okay, so logically, if I believe that it's infinite, now if your God infinite, how big is your God, right? We've got a song on that, right? If your God is infinite, then I got to be a part of this God. And then as I meditate on that, and I say sometimes we pray too fast. We need to slow down and stop at that unification step. Just meditate upon the idea that God is, I am. God is, I am. And I would bet you would come to the conclusion, like many of us have come to, wow, something within me is alive and welcome. And then we speak the word of what our intentions are. And of course, it's in through all the traditional religions. You speak it as though it already is. Because why? It is. Where's it at, Kaleem? I don't have my money right now. It is. You know why? God is infinite. God is prosperous. God is the source of all resources. It already is in the meta. No, in the invisible to the eyes. Now I speak it as though it already is in the physical. And what must happen? It must come forth in some form or another. That's the most powerful part. Each one of those steps is a meditation itself. And then, of course, the beautiful thing, we go to the 4th step, and we say, you know what? I am so thankful that it already is. Oh, I am so thankful. Now, what happens if Bill Gates gives you a phone call and says, I'm sending you $1 million? I'm going to say, thank you. I look at my account, it ain't there yet, but thank you, right? All right? And so that's the idea of the power of affirmative prayer. And then, of course, there comes a time when I just trust, and I release, and I let it go. Now, gardeners, you know you got to go to that step, right? If you keep digging it up and looking at it, what's going to happen, right? At some point, you got to release, and you got to trust. We call it the release step. I release, and I what? Let go. And what am I letting go to? God. Let go. Let God. Let the law work itself and let it manifest. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. All right. The story of their flight became a whispered legend among the enslaved. Those who could not fly told about the people who could fly to their children. They tried to remember the magical chant. Soon they would learn to walk, to run, to hide, to ride, and fight. And some would learn simply to take flight to freedom. When they were free, they sat close before the fire. They told it. They told the story. They so loved the fire, light, and the freedom. And they telling the children about the ones who could fly. Notice you tell the story about the ones who what? The ones who could. And they told their children, and their children's children told me. Now, I have told you. You can fly. Let us pray. I would invite you in this precious moment to bring to mind that which you want to take flight about. And not only to bring to mind for me personally, for you personally, let's also bring to mind that which we choose to see our loved ones take flight. Not only our loved ones, those who are close to us, how about our neighbors? And who are our neighbors? Those who are near and those who are far. Those who are local and those who are so-called global. We all want to take flight. We all want to take flight. So I speak this word in knowing whether your flight is regarding financial matters, whether your flight is regarding health matters, or relationship matters, or simply with my flight is about my life purpose and expressing more of my good. I speak this word and recognize there's an infinite presence that right here and right now, that desire, the desire, that which is desired by God within you and as you, already is. And I speak this word that you are now running, you're walking, you're flying, you're doing what you have to do in the physical to affirm and to know the meta, the spiritual truth of your life and the life of others. So I speak this word of prosperity among us and about us. I speak this word of health, life, strength, and vitality. I speak this word of joy overflowing in harmony in all of our relationships. Oh, and I speak this word of peace on earth and goodwill toward all. And for this, I'm so thankful. For this, I'm so thankful that it is so. Now, please join me in affirming. And so it is. Amen.